So the last issue or instance where the political process has problems that we're going to cover here in Chapter 6 is what we call bootleggers and Baptists. Okay, so you're probably wondering what the heck is this, all right? Now, this is an idea that helps to explain why sometimes we see laws and regulations that favor the entity being regulated. Okay, so what do I mean by this? Well, the bootleggers represent people who will profit, who will profit from a law. Okay, and the Baptists represent those people who want the law for moral reasons. Okay. All right, so now it turns out, so this idea originally was kind of first formulated by an economist from Clemson. His name is Bruce Yandel. Now he's an econ person through and through. In fact, his grandson, basically one of his kids, married someone whose last name was Smith. And so those parents, of course, named their child, that is his grandson, Adam Smith. So yes, today there is an economist who teaches. I've met him a couple times at conferences, and his name is Adam Smith. So his grandfather, Bruce Yandel, who first came up with this idea, is kind of an old school economist. Okay, and what it represents now, Bruce basically mentioned that actually it was more the Methodists who were actually behind prohibition. But the alliteration with bootleggers and Baptists worked better, so that's why he went with it. But who are the bootleggers? Well, if you know anything about U.S. history, bootleggers were the people who were profiting during the era of Prohibition. So as many of you know, in the 1920s, alcohol was made illegal in the United States, right? It was a constitutional amendment that actually outlawed alcohol in the United States, okay? So there's roughly this 10-year period where alcohol was illegal. And the bootleggers were the people who were profiting off of this, right? They made illegal alcohol, they were transported places, they would run illegal bars and things like that, a lot of times called speakeasies, okay? So the bootleggers were those people who were basically profiting, making a ton of money off of prohibition, okay? Now, the Baptists represented those people who wanted prohibition because they thought alcohol was bad, right? They wanted to ban alcohol because it was bad, right? So here you've got two people who clearly do not like each other, right? The Baptists despise the bootleggers, right? But they both work together for this law to be passed. Right? The Baptists wanted it for moral reasons. The bootleggers wanted it because they were making money. Right? So we sometimes see that in pieces of legislation. So if we fast forward to the 1980s, 1980s was when the tobacco industry was kind of under attack. Right? For a long time, they had kind of denied the negative side effects of smoking. And finally, this is where a lot of research started to show that, yeah, look, smoking led to lung cancer, all different other types of cancers, lots of health problems. And so there were a lot of lawsuits against the tobacco industry. So there's a lot of legal action. And the tobacco industry fought it for a long time. until all of a sudden they changed course. Okay. And again, a lot of the moralists, that is the Baptists, the people who wanted to punish the tobacco companies because, they viewed smoking as bad and so forth, celebrated this. Like, finally, we have conquered the tobacco companies, right? Well, in this piece of at this time, the people who were anti-tobacco were the Baptists, right? Turns out the tobacco companies were the bootleggers, right? So what the tobacco companies did is they said, okay, tell you what, we will agree to a settlement. It's what's called the tobacco settlement, right? And the deal is we will pay in a bunch of money, billions of dollars into this fund, and this fund will be used to pay the medical bills for all those people with lung cancer, basically all the people who were dying of lung cancer or different types of cancers that were caused by tobacco, right? So if someone went to their doctor and the doctor said, yes, you have lung cancer from tobacco, then they could get money from this fund to pay the medical bills, right? So the tobacco companies agreed to this under one condition, right? Any new tobacco company that tried to sell tobacco in the United States would have to pay into the fund the amount that the tobacco companies had paid in over the years, right? And over the years, the tobacco companies have paid in tens of billions, probably hundreds of billions of dollars into this fund, right? So what the tobacco companies did by agreeing to this settlement, they guaranteed that no new companies would ever compete with them ever again. Because if a new company wanted to get in and sell cigarettes, right, before they could even sell a single cigarette, they would have to pay billions and billions of dollars into this fund because that's what the law says, right? That was the deal in the tobacco settlement, right? And so here you've got two groups of people that don't like each other, right? The moralists, the Baptists in the story, are the anti-smoking people, and the bootleggers are the tobacco companies, and yet they both come together and support this tobacco settlement. The tobacco companies favored it because it meant they never had to compete again. Sure, they had to pay into the settlement fund, but they realized over the long haul that they're going to be better off, right? They own the market now. No new competition can come in, right? So there's only a few tobacco companies left. They dominate the market. They make nice profits, and they're basically protected by this settlement fund, right? And so that's the idea of bootleggers and Baptists. We sometimes see laws and regulations that favor the industry being regulated, right? We see this in the financial industry. The SEC is a regulator of the financial industry, and the SEC largely just serves the interests of the financial industry, right? And so that's the idea of bootleggers and Baptists, okay?